Up first, Donald Trump's transition troubles. This week, his pick for Attorney General withdrew from consideration, and his choice for Defense Secretary tried to build Senate support amid sexual assault allegations, as Republicans on Capitol Hill walk a tightrope, handling Trump's controversial nominees.
A great day of momentum for the Trump-Vance administration.
Less than 24 hours after that show of self-confidence, Matt Gaetz pulling the plug on his bid to be Attorney General.
Mr. President, are you reconsidering the nomination of Matt Gaetz?
No.
But Trump's support for Gaetz ended after getting reports at least 4 Senate Republicans couldn't get past a House ethics investigation into claims Gaetz had multiple sexual encounters with a minor, which he denied.
I know enough people that were a hell no.
Trump quickly nominating former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi to lead the DOJ, as his transition team scrambles to secure GOP support for other cabinet hopefuls.
The matter was fully investigated, and I was completely cleared.
Pentagon picked Pete Hegseth on the Hill with Vice President-elect J.D. Vance, dealing with a police report a woman accused him of sexual assault in 2017.
He's going to have to answer those questions with regard to anything that's in his record.
Hegseth is not alone. Some Republicans also non-committal about Health and Human Services nominee Robert Kennedy Jr.
We got a process. He's got to go through the process.
And Tulsi Gabbard's shot to lead national intelligence also in question after supporting Syria's dictator and blaming NATO for Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
This is not a place for a Russian, Iranian, Syrian, Chinese sympathizer.
Here with me today, New York Times journalist and the Interview podcast host, Lulu Garcia-Navarro. Reihan Salam, president of the Manhattan Institute and National Review contributing editor. Politics and policy contributor at Bloomberg, Nia-Malika Henderson. And conservative pollster and New York Times opinion writer, Kristen Soltis Anderson. Welcome back, everyone. Kristen, let's start with the Gaetz rejection by Senate Republicans. How big a setback for Donald Trump?
I think I mentioned on the show last week that Donald Trump was a raptor testing the fences. He has discovered that they are electrified, that there are some places that Senate Republicans simply will not go. I think that Gaetz was always going to be the hardest sell. I am not surprised to see him have to withdraw. I do think that the Republican senators want to get to yes on everybody else, and I think that includes Pete Hegseth.
We'll get to that in a moment. But I do want to talk about the message here. Trump was riding high after the election, picking cabinet nominees at a record pace, telling the Senate to go on recess and give his choices a pass. But now Gaetz appears to be the earliest failed cabinet pick in modern history. Nia, how big a reality check for Donald Trump?
Well, listen, I think Donald Trump thought he was going to be able to muscle Matt Gaetz through. If you think about it, this is his second defeat in the face of this Republican Senate. He really wanted Rick Scott to be the majority leader. They picked John Thune. So now with Matt Gaetz, they've sort of said, no, thank you to Donald Trump. He was threatening a lot of these folks with primary challenges that were going to be backed by Elon Musk, and they still turned their backs on what Matt Gaetz was going to be. And I think he sort of has misread or overread the mandate, overread his ability to power through this Republican Congress and this Senate.
I want to pick up on that, Reihan, with you, because I think there was this sense, Trump certainly never said it explicitly, but there was this sense that he was just going to come into town and sweep away a lot of the traditional guardrails, like the Senate, like some of the other constraints on a president. And in this very first test, the guardrails held.
Well, I have to say there's some reporting which suggests that this choice of Gaetz happened pretty improvisationally, shall we say, while they were all gathered together on the plane, and Susie Wiles was back in the back of the plane, not hearing about it, right? His chief of staff, his designated chief of staff. And similarly, in a conversation with Maggie Haberman, an inside source in Trump world seemed to suggest that were Gaetz to go away, it would be all right, and you'd go back to the drawing board. Some of us already believed that some of this is improvisational. Some of this is testing the guardrails, number one. Number two, some of us also believed that the genius of the framers is that, guess what? Senators are elected to 6-year terms. Senators are jealously protective of their institution and their prerogatives. And so the idea that he was going to somehow get all of these Republican senators, all these senators, period, to subordinate themselves to him, it was always a bit of a fanciful sense. I think that this was very, very predictable.
Lulu?
I mean, what I think is this. Everyone's sort of touting that the guardrails held. It was 4 senators who were the guardrails in this particular case that didn't give Matt Gaetz the vote. That's a very, very small group of people.
We don't know what the number is because it wasn't a vote.
It wasn't a vote, but we knew.
There were at least 30 who raised concerns, right, in reporting.
But, I mean, regardless, the point is he was trying to steamroll the Senate. And the Senate said no.
Yeah, but he was trying to steamroll the Senate with an absolutely unfit.
That was the point.
And more reporting came out throughout this process that really put him in a difficult position. I have to say, had there not been more evidence that he had contact with that 17-year-old, that he was grooming high school students, I think it would have been a different story. At the end of the day, look what happened in the House. They actually still haven't released that report on him. They were trying to protect him. And so I don't know. I don't see this as some sort of like celebration of the system working.
Lulu, as we said in the setup piece, some of Trump's other picks that we named also face headwinds. Do you think that other nominees will be rejected or, just to do it delicately, pull themselves out? And if so, who do you think is in the most jeopardy?
I think Tulsi Gabbard is probably going to be in the most jeopardy.
She's the choice for Director of National Intelligence.
She's the choice for Director of National Intelligence. And I think the process isn't just, we haven't even gotten to the place where they're actually on the Hill yet and testifying. What's happening now is the media is digging into all these people. And what's happening now is that people are really, focusing on them. And so I actually think the more that's going to come out, the harder that it's going to be for some of these people. But again, I've been on the record as saying from the beginning that I thought, they're all going to get through. So,
This
don't take my word for
Well,
it.
let me ask you, Ryan, do you think other Trump nominees will go down?
I think it's entirely possible that it will happen. My guess, as Kristen was saying, is that Republican senators are going to, generally speaking, want his nominees to get through. But, think back to Bill Clinton. When he was he was very important to him to have a female attorney general, the first female attorney general. He went through Zoe Baird, then Kimba Wood, then finally Janet Reno, someone that he did not know at all. These things happen. What's happening now is that the cycle is much faster. The media frenzy is much more. And when Donald Trump does something, he's doing things that other presidents have done, but it's more lurid, it's more crazy, it's more of a spectacle.
I only would push back to the extent to say that it is not unusual for presidents to lose some picks. George H.W. Bush lost John Tower.
Absolutely.
The difference is that Trump seemed to think after his reelection that he was going to come into town and remake the rules, and he didn't. One other thing that people have noticed about Trump's picks, how many come from television? Pete Hegseth, Dr. Oz, Tulsi Gabbard, Sean Duffy, Mike Huckabee. Kristen, what do Trump's picks, these ones in particular, say about his priorities?
Well, people are always looking for someone who they are comfortable with, and Donald Trump is very comfortable with people he has seen on television. He also prioritizes showmanship. He prioritizes messaging. And I think he thinks by choosing people who he enjoys watching on television, that will put a good face on his administration, and that on the policy stuff, that can all get sorted out by him just saying, no, I want this, get it done. And as long as somebody is a good face on television, it will make his agenda work.
Yeah, I mean, he's very big on charisma. He's very big on looking the part. Whether or not that plays with these Republican senators who were appointed to 6-year terms, they have been there before Donald Trump. They're going to be there long after Donald Trump. So I think some of these folks, you mentioned Tulsi Gabbard, I think somebody like Pete Hegseth also might have an issue because what Trump likes isn't necessarily fitting with some of the qualifications that these senators are looking for. And it's not enough for them to be able to say, well, Donald Trump won the election. He's got all chambers, and we're just going to rubber stamp his piece.
But Lulu, I'm asking a somewhat different question, which is, what do these TV hosts, and look, some of them were, Huckabee was the governor of Arkansas, but what does his attraction to these TV hosts say about Trump?
What it says is that he is interested in how this plays to the general public. He wants to dominate the media narrative. He is fascinated by television. He wants these people to go out and be his spokesperson. And really, he thinks that that is why he won the election, that he was able to kind of dominate the new media game, that he was really able to penetrate parts of the country that were not penetrated before. And I think that he believes that these people are going to be able to do that. And again, he's planning on radically remaking government. And so he's going to need spokespeople to sell that to the American people. So maybe he's right in choosing these people.